When you saw the short clip, you felt a specific kind of resistance. You saw the numbers, you saw the claim that leaving the workforce 2 decades early is a mathematical certainty, not a lottery win, and your brain likely rejected it. That reaction is normal. We are conditioned to believe that freedom is a luxury reserved for the lucky or the exceptionally talented. But financial physics doesn't care about luck. It doesn't care about your talent. It only cares about structure. If you are here, it's because the 65-year plan feels like a prison sentence, and you are looking for the key. The key isn't a stock pick. It isn't a side hustle. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of how the equation works. Let's correct it. The standard narrative is seductive because it is symmetrical. It goes like this. You trade your time for money. You save 10 to 15% of that money. You invest it in a diversified portfolio. You wait 40 years. By the time you are 65, the compound interest has done its work, and you are granted permission to stop. We trust this narrative because it is the social contract. It suggests that if you are a good citizen, if you show up and do your part, you will be taken care of in the end. It appeals to our sense of fairness. Most financial advice is built entirely around optimizing this specific path. They tell you to cut lattes to make the waiting room slightly more comfortable. But you aren't here to make the waiting room comfortable. You're here to leave the building. Here is where the narrative fractures. The standard advice is designed for a standard timeline. When you try to compress a 40-year process into 15 years using the standard tools, the system breaks. You cannot simply save a little more to retire 20 years early. The math is not linear, it is geometric. The fracture happens because most people focus on the wrong variable. They focus on income and return on investment. They think the solution to retiring at 40 is to earn $500,000 a year or to find a crypto coin that goes to the moon. But high income does not equal wealth, and high returns are out of your control. If you earn $300,000 a year, but you spend $290,000 to maintain the lifestyle that signals you earn $300,000, you are mathematically a pauper. You are running on a treadmill that is moving exactly as fast as you are. The moment you stop running, you fall off.
To understand how to actually leave the workforce, you have to look at the hidden mechanism. The only metric that determines when you can retire is your savings rate. That is it. Let me visualize this for you. If you spend everything you earn, a 0% savings rate, you can never retire. You are a slave to your wages forever. If you save the standard 10%, assuming average market returns, it takes roughly 51 years to reach financial independence. Start at 20, retire at 71. But look what happens when you manipulate the lever. If you save 50% of your income, the timeline collapses. It drops from 51 years to 17 years. Why? Because you're doing two things simultaneously. First, you're accumulating capital faster. But secondly, and this is the part people miss, you have proven you can live on less. If you live on 50% of your income, you need half as much money to survive. Your freedom number is cut in half, and your speed toward it doubles. This is the mechanics of the system. It is a double-ended lever. Retiring in your 40s isn't about getting rich. It's about widening the gap between what you bring in and what you push out. The wider the gap, the shorter the sentence. So if the math is this simple, save half, retire in 17 years, why doesn't everyone do it? Because the entire world is engineered to close that gap. We live in an economy fueled by attention and consumption. Every billboard, every algorithm, every notification is designed to trigger a dopamine loop that equates spending with status and comfort with happiness. I've consulted with lawyers and surgeons making 7 figures who cannot stop working for even 3 months. They have trapped themselves in a cage of their own design. A bigger house requires higher taxes, higher utilities, more maintenance. The luxury car requires premium insurance. The private school tuition becomes a fixed cost. They increased their income, but they increased their drag coefficient by the exact same amount. They are aerodynamically incapable of liftoff. The consequence isn't just financial, it's psychological. When you are 45, burning out, and you realize you have to keep this pace for another 20 years just to service the debt on the life you built, that is a very dark place to be.
We need to reframe how you view money. Stop viewing money as a way to buy things. Start viewing money as a way to buy time. Every dollar you do not spend is an employee. That employee works 24 hours a day for you. When you have enough employees, enough capital, their output covers your input. This is the crossover point. The moment your assets generate enough cash flow to cover your survival, you are free. Everything after that is optional. To retire in your 40s, you must become ruthless about this frame. You're not depriving yourself of a new car. You're buying 3 years of freedom. You're not missing out on the expensive dinner. You are purchasing a Tuesday morning where you don't have to answer to a boss. It is an exchange, inventory of stuff versus inventory of time. If you want to execute this, you cannot rely on willpower. Willpower fatigues, systems do not. Here are the only shifts that matter. First, cap the big three: housing, transportation, and food. These 3 categories account for 70% of the average budget. If you lose on these, you cannot win on the small stuff. No amount of canceled streaming services will fix a mortgage that is too big for your freedom goals. Live in a smaller space. Drive a reliable, paid-off car. Win the big battles. Second, automate the scarcity. Do not save what is left over after spending. Spend what is left over after saving. Set your investments to auto-draft the day your paycheck hits. If the money never hits your checking account, you cannot spend it. You force yourself to adapt to the smaller amount. Humans are incredibly adaptable. Use that to your advantage. Third, define enough. Pick a number, a lifestyle level, and when you reach it, stop moving the goalposts. If you get a raise, the raise goes entirely to the Freedom Fund, not the Lifestyle Fund.
Retiring in your 40s is not about sitting on a beach doing nothing. Humans need work to have meaning. It is about autonomy. It is about waking up and asking, what do I want to do today, rather than what must I do to survive? The system is designed to keep you dependent until you are used up. Escaping that gravity requires velocity, and it requires a plan. It isn't magic, it isn't fantasy, it is just cold, hard math. Here at Sharon Finances, we don't do hype. We study the mechanics of wealth so you can navigate the transition safely. If you want to understand how the machine actually works beneath the surface, subscribe. I'll see you on the other side.